Carol took the time to say. My name is John Trego, Sergeant John Trego. I'm a cavalry scout as part of Alpha Troop 1st, the 104th Cavalry out of Philadelphia. I'm here today representing an organization I'm part of, which is the 1st Troop Philadelphia City Cavalry. We are quite possibly the oldest continuously serving unit in the United States military. We started in November 17th of 1774. I'm honored to say that this past November we celebrated our 250th anniversary. So that was really great. So I'm here today to share with you guys a little bit of local history and how this area kind of connects to the Continental Army. So June 1775, we know that the Army is created and it's put under the command of General George Washington. 1 year prior to that, in September of 1774, we have the first Continental Congress. And following that Continental Congress, that spirit of revolution was really in the air and in no place less than Philadelphia. And so in November of 1774, 28 Philadelphians, 22 of them members of the Gloucester Fox Hunting Club, came together at Carpenter's Hall and they signed the charter which formed the 1st Troop Philadelphia City Cavalry. So what kind of made it unique as a cavalry unit, and what is so important about them being from that Gloucester Fox Hunt was that in order to be a cavalry unit, you not only needed horses, but you needed men who could fight off of horseback, whether it be with sabers, or pistols, or rifles. So these men being part of that Gloucester hunt was really uniquely positioned them to form this type of unit. Some of these early members included men like Abraham Marcoux. Abraham Marcoux was a very wealthy Philadelphian. He was a Danish man and he owned all sorts of land across the colonies. He was the first commander of the 1st Troop. However, there was a decree by the King of Denmark prior to the revolution kicking off that stated that no Danish men could fight in the revolution, and so he was forced to resign his commission. We also had men like John Dunlop. John Dunlop is pretty important because he actually owned a bunch of printing presses, and he was the man who printed the first copies of the Declaration of Independence and distributed them in 1776. Then we have a man like Samuel Morse. Samuel Morse was the first captain of the 1st City Troop. Those of you who are in the military may be surprised to know that Samuel Morse was elected the captain of the troop, which sounds kind of strange that he was not appointed. And being that our organization somewhat predates the Army and the nation itself, that is a tradition that we have carried now for 250 years. We still to this day elect our captain. And it is an unbroken lineage between the 1st, the 104th Cavalry, and the 1st Troop that we have elected those captains in tandem with each other. Back to Abraham Marcoux. Abraham Marcoux designed this standard, which is our troop standard, the Marcoux standard. I'm going to pass some of these around if you could take a look at them. Now this standard was created in 1774 alongside of the 1st City Troop. And if you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the distinctive 13 stripes. Sorry, I won't be. You can see the distinctive 13 stripes, one for each colony. Now considering that this flag was created in 1774, that is 3 years before Betsy Ross was commissioned to create the first American flag. So while there is no concrete historical evidence for this, it can be heavily inferred due to the proximity that this flag had to our founding fathers and the Continental Army, that it may have been the direct inspiration for the American flag. I also show you the Marcoux to introduce you to what may be the troop's most famous actions during the Revolutionary War. So the Revolutionary War kicks off there in 1775, we declare independence in 1776. On December 25th of 1776, we are, I would assume we were all aware of George Washington's famous crossing of the Delaware River. The 1st City Troop at this time was organized as part of the Continental Army, and we have in our museum, which is in Center City at 23rd Street in Philadelphia, our original Marcoux standard, which crossed the Delaware with George Washington. If any of you are ever in that area, it is right near the Rittenhouse Square area. I would love to invite any of you down to go ahead and knock and see if someone's there, or call ahead. We have an extensive military museum there that's really great. But so following that Delaware crossing, the troops saw action the next day at Trenton, where there was a victory against the British. And then 1 week later in Princeton, Washington suffered a defeat. During the retreat from Princeton, Washington ordered the troop to the rear to cover, and the troop not only successfully repelled the pursuing British, but they were able to capture a number of the elite British Dragoons, which is their cavalry. So following that action at Trenton and Princeton, George Washington, recognizing that many of these troopers were in somewhat esteemed positions in their civilian lives, retired the troop and had them return to their civilian capacities, as he felt that they could better serve the revolution in that way. The troopers who remained were put in many trusted positions, such as military couriers. From that point on, following the revolution, the troop has served in every major conflict in the United States history. We've had many other notable members of the troop. We had Robert Borden, who started the Borden School as part of the University of Penn. We had William Buckley. William Buckley, who in 1788, after 8 years of service to the troop, would become the first commandant of the Marine Corps. In Vietnam, we had Major Pete Sellers. Major Pete Sellers was a decorated Green Beret. Pete Charles Conrad was a trooper. He was the third man to walk on the moon. And even through today, we have many esteemed members of the troop. So I'm kind of losing my train here. This is not typically the function that we serve as troopers. Usually we do many more ceremonial duties. We still maintain our cavalry traditions to this day. We ride, our regimental uniform is the original uniform which we would have worn, to include, bearskin hats and the tight belts and stirrups and all that. And so typically that is the function that we would operate under. As I said, the 1st City Troop is a functioning and serving unit in the United States Army. At this time, we have been organized under the National Guard, most recently deploying to Egypt in 2021, which is where I became associated with the troop. Absolutely. I guess that's about it, and I would love to open the floor to any questions that you guys have about our organization.